Well, hello again. I'm Marilyn Hawes with Unprecedented TV for my show this morning on Heart and Soul, which you can find on YouTube. I'm also CEO of Freedom from Abuse, which is a charity trying to prevent child abuse by teaching, training youngsters and adults on what to spot to try and prevent the abuse there's so much of in society today. So for Heart and Soul, I'm always inviting anyone with a lived experience or a story to tell, or a very interesting career that people maybe not even thought of, as a guest on my show. So if you have a situation you want to discuss and you think, well, she hasn't called me, please do contact at Unprecedented TV and come on my show. And together you'll discover, if you've looked at some of my shows, we will discuss the issues from which all too many people want to turn away from, and they choose to ignore other people's reality. And I think these situations need to be given oxygen to open hearts, minds and souls, and also give the listeners hope so they have an informed decision, an informed opinion next time they think they know something that they haven't probably learned about. So we will kick the elephant out of the room and make people wake up. And this morning, I warmly welcome Mike from Three Dads Walking. Now, I've got a lot of people who want to see you today, Mike. Warm welcome to you. And if you can tell us how Three Dads Walking came about.
Well, thank you for having me on, Marilyn. I do appreciate it. Okay, well, it's quite a story how we came to be. I think we need to start with myself losing my 17-year-old daughter, Beth, to suicide in March the 28th, 2020. You know, I won't pull any punches here. You know, I mean, it's quite amazing I'm actually still here now. But Beth, basically, we had lockdown coming. March 2020, we're all getting ready for lockdown. And Beth was she was trained to be a vocal artist. She was at college, she was smashing it, and Beth was probably the last person in the world you'd ever thought would have taken her own life. She was full of life, she was very popular, she had many friend circles, she had a wicked sense of humor, she was very cheeky, very theatrical, as well as singing. She could dance as well. To us, you know, to myself, she was the little girl who used to sit on my shoulders when she was smaller. She used to hold my hand. She could get away with anything by just saying, basically, Dad, I love you. You know, she wasn't just, you know, the fact is, though, she, you know, obviously, I couldn't have loved her more, and obviously still do. But she was so much to so many people, whether that's relatives, friends, work colleagues, college friends. She was so much to everyone, you know. And I think Beth's story is basically, I think she may have been struggling from some sort of mental health issues, but we never saw this as a family. You know, we were very close knit. We had all the banter and everything. I was always known as the grumpy old dad, but I was the grumpy old dad who'd always give her a lift, you know, take her to and from her, you know, her gigs and things like that. You know, I was always on hand. But I think at the end of the day, I think Beth made a terrible decision. I don't think she'd thought it out. I think she was suffering from anxiety with lockdown coming. She saw her birthday being cancelled. She saw her holidays being cancelled, and she probably made a very teenage decision. But moving on, so, you know, it's absolutely brutal. You know, it's a visceral thing. It hits you throughout. So my life changed in an instant.
Is it only now when you look back there you think there would have been, because this is I have been in that position, right, through stuff of my own. And at the time, in itself, it's a mental illness that I look back and at the time when I had planned it, and I was 2 days away from it happening, and I looked all bonny and happy because I thought, oh, I found a way out of this. Yeah. I thought I was doing everyone a favour because I'd obviously married the wrong man. Terrible things happened to my children from the head teacher who ended up going to prison. And I thought I was doing everyone a favour because I'd made terrible decisions about who I'd married, who I was working for. And it just made complete sense. I can't believe I was that person now. But was there anything? Was it just going back? You sort of think...
hindsight.
Hindsight.
I look back in hindsight. I look at, things she said, maybe the way she was acting. And you can put a lot of this down to teenage behaviour. Do I beat myself up? Yes, of course I do.
Of course you do, yeah.
But I also know that, if I could have made things different, I would have done. Thank you for sharing your story as well. I know it's very difficult. It's very hard, but I was plunged after losing Beth. There's many different reasons for suicide, whether it's long-term mental health issues, short-term despair, shifts in life, breakdowns of relationships, and as the three dads, when we walk, some of the, we hear many stories, but we often hear stories of hope where people have carried on and now they want to be here.
Well, that's me.
They're here. And of course, all their friends, family, they have them on side as well. But after losing Beth, I was plunged into a suicidal spiral. I tried to take my own life. I went from a stereotypical strong firefighter who dealt with life and death many times, never took it lightly, and I was smashed to pieces.
I cannot think of anything worse than losing your child, either by illness, accident, but I think there must be this terrible despair when I'm a very sensitive person, and I find things actually, stories like this, really actually hurt my heart. My heart literally aches for people in this position like you are. I mean, did you just find her? Was she outside? Did she not come home and you found her, or how did it?
Yeah, I won't go into that, Marilyn, that bit, but but basically she was there 1 minute and gone the next.
And how did you hook up? Because there's three of you. How did the other dads? How did you meet up?
Well, it's quite an amazing story, really, because I'm very close to Andy and Tim now, the other three dads. We've known each other for now about 5 years, and it seems as though I've known them forever. But when we lost Beth, there was a lot of stuff went out on social media. Some articles were written because she was a singer. She was out there, and I lived in Manchester at the time, and another family in Norfolk had just gone through 5 days before the same thing. So this was Tim's family in Norfolk, and his 19-year-old daughter Emily had died just 5 days before Beth. And one of Tim's surviving daughters got in contact with one of my surviving daughters, but I ended up talking to Tim, to cut a long story short. But we were both on the same page.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We were smashed to pieces. I never knew what Tim looked like for probably about a year. He was just a voice on the end of the phone. And we spoke, if not once, twice a week, sometimes more. And all of a sudden, he was a person who understood. I was in a place where I couldn't even focus on my own family. His daughter's story was very different. She had a diagnosis of high functioning autism. She'd struggled throughout her life, but she had been in a better place before lockdown came. She was driving, she was going to the gym, she had a job, all things like that. But his family were going through exactly the same as my family.
And also, I mean, how hideous that this happened on the cusp of lockdown, because you had couldn't go out and get the support and the, this sort of the succor and the support and the love of friends and other family. I mean, it must have been horrendous, because we are all unique and different and have our own sensitivities. And I found with my family, when we were struggling with this abuse, that we were all in different places on the same day. Somebody would be very black, somebody was, coping okay. But when we were all in that dark space on the same day, it was like hell on earth. And that must have been, given it was lockdown, you must have had that lots of times.
It was brutal.
I'm
absolutely
sure.
Brutal. As a father, I as I say, I couldn't really even focus on the rest of my family in the house. I've got 2 other daughters. One didn't live with us at the time, my wife, and we couldn't even focus. The grief is so, and it was dark. I just remember everything, almost the colour had gone out of the world. It went to black and white.
Yes, that's right.
The only thing that got me out of bed in the end was a small dog. Sadly, we lost him last August, called Monty. And he was my first real sort of, he made me get back up in the world almost, because I had to walk him.
Now, this is very interesting you say this, Mike, because when I was in that same state as you, obviously for different reasons, it's bad enough, but nothing like yours. My children lived through it, thankfully. But the psychiatrist said to me, because I'd become agoraphobic, and I don't know if you did this, but one of my coping mechanisms, which is quite common, is avoidance. So I wouldn't answer the front door. I wouldn't answer my phone unless the name came up. I wouldn't open the post. I couldn't cope with anything. I was completely dysfunctional, and I didn't want to go out. And it is horrible. And this psychiatrist said, get a dog, get a puppy, which we did. And he was called Max. And he passed away, about 7 years ago. And my goodness me, when he did, some of my heart went with him, because that dog, like you're saying, he chose us as a puppy. He chose us. He came and he sat by us. And I said, this is the one we have to have. He didn't leave our side. It's like he sort of sensed it. And all the time he knew my every mood. And he would just come and rest his head on my lap and stroke my ears. That dog is what kept me going. Absolutely kept me going.
They are great therapy,
100%.
It was a small black and white Jackapoo, so a Jack Russell Poodle cross.
So cute.
Uncertain temper, he'd fight anything.
Yeah.
But to me, he was 8 years old at the time. He'd never slept on the bed. And when we lost Beth, he just got on the bed.
They know.
He lay beside me.
Yeah.
There's many factors of why I'm still here. Luckily, you mentioned avoidance. I wasn't like that. I have always been a talker, and Andy and Tim are as well. And I think and I never hid the fact. I mean, a lot of people, there's a stigma around suicide, that there's the shame factor.
Absolutely.
But,
don't they? I mean, when my children were sexually abused by the head teacher, people would literally, we lived in a little village in West Sussex, and it all got in the press, because I was determined to get it in the press, because I was the deputy, and I thought, by golly, he did this on my watch. But people would literally walk out the post office when I walk in. They crossed the road, and the same with you, presumably, you feel even more isolated. And I mean, I wasn't the criminal, and you think, what is it that people can't just hold your hand, touch your arm? They're always going to come out with the wrong statement or comment. So say nothing, just hold someone, because unless you can get to maybe 90% of understanding, but that 10%, only people that have been there get it, don't they? Only people. And when you're talking to the person that's been there and the person that hasn't, no matter how much empathy they've got, it's just awful. I mean, so the third gentleman, how did you meet him?
We call him a gentleman. That'll be Andy.
Well, I do, because I have to be professional, you see. I can't say the grumpy old bloke. How did you meet?
No. I'll tell you how we met Andy. Then I'll go back onto a few points you've just raised there. Okay. No, as time went on, I got introduced to a wonderful charity called Papyrus Prevention of Young Suicide.
Yeah.
And through them, I heard of another father who'd been bereaved 14 months earlier. His daughter was Sophie. She was an oncology nurse. She was 29, and her marriage had broken down. There may have been other factors, but obviously, but I heard about Andy, and I'd already started to form a bit of an idea with Tim about walking to illustrate that suicide's the biggest killer of our young people across the UK. So we were gonna walk from, say, Manchester to where Tim lives out near Kings Lynn in Norfolk. But then I started hearing about this other guy, Andy Airy, and I met his son at a training event, and I ended up meeting Andy, and I put it to him, and he came on board straight away, and literally it was just went woof. We're all very different. We're all very different. Andy's he's a sort of a hard Cumbrian, if you like. Tim's a very elegant Southerner. I'm a bloke in the middle. It's a bit like a Lord of the Rings sort of thing. But what we ended up doing, though, through our own grief, because I talk personally. I was in a hell of a terrible place. I just didn't want to be here. But the thing is, we started laughing. We generally at each other, but the dynamics of what we got, we do fall out, we do bicker, we're very different, but the bond we've got is absolutely incredible, and would I be here now without them? I don't know, but they play a big factor in my life.
But the walking is a bit like 3 Forrest Gumps, isn't it?
well, you could describe us as many things. It was like Last of the Summer Wine.
Yeah.
You can pick the characters yourself, but we started walking 2021, 300 miles. We raised an extraordinary amount of money on that walk after only we just wanted to raise £3,000 each. We raised over £500,000
wow.
just on that. The BBC and ITV Granada were great supporters, but we started talking to people when we walked, whether it be bereaved parents, people with stories, but going back to what you were saying before about people avoiding you and things. I will always forgive someone if they don't feel as though they taught me at the time. I forgive them because I know they don't want to, they just don't know how to. But as you say, but if people come up to me as well and say, I don't know what to say, but that meant a lot because they had come up to me.
Yes, that honesty is actually, that's the right way of saying it. So many people think they're doing the right thing by saying, so I do a lot of training for NHS students, right, becoming medics and all that. And I say to them, the misuse of language can really set the hairs running. So if you say to somebody, because you just think it's the best thing to say, I understand, you don't unless you've been there, and you can't, there's no point in saying, what's wrong with you? What's happened to you? What's happened? Make yourself warm, open, let people come to you and sort of talk. Don't close them down with, I understand, because you can't, you don't.
A lot of the people, remember, Beth went to school in Sale where I lived. She had a lot of friends, a lot of those were parents, but I think people perceived we were the last family in the world that would lose a child to suicide. It's brutal. It's unthinkable. It's something that happens to someone else.
Absolutely.
And that they, how can I put it? I wasn't the perfect father, but I tell you what, I tried to be a damn good dad. I did everything I could.
And they're not born with a guidebook, are they? You do the best you can, and every child's different. Every child.
Parenting.
I've got twins. I've got 4 kids.
Parenting is the hardest job in the world.
100%.
Absolutely. And it's sometimes you have a child, you see the future, you see how the perfect future will pan out. Unfortunately, it doesn't always. No. But this is why, with our campaigning and everything, we want far more to be done in schools to support kids' mental health, their well-being, but also give them more life skills that are relevant. We can only build academic qualifications on a platform. Absolutely. And that platform has to have the foundations, and those are those things: good mental health, well-being, life skills.
I mean, suicide is a terrible, well, the most highest with men, isn't it? Under 40, around about 40. It's a massive number of men.
Yeah. There's many figures out there.
Yeah.
None of them are good.
No, but, absolutely. Only one is too many.
No, I know. But
I tell you what I don't like, and I don't know if I find it grates on me, and yet people do say it, commit suicide. I think that's awful. You took your life. You didn't commit a crime. They took their life. Sadly, brutal is a softer way of saying it. And some people still say, you see it in the papers also sometimes, committed suicide. It's just awful thing to say.
Yeah, you shouldn't. It's outdated. Basically, suicide was against the law till 1961.
That's right.
And my father-in-law, who's still alive, was a policeman then, and he'd be arresting people who were suicidal. Therefore, they can't reach out for help. The language like that isn't helpful. I've corrected many people, politicians, journalists. It's still out there, but it's a case of education.
This is why I like doing my show, because you've come on, you're expressing your feelings, and you're very open about it, and your emotions and situations. And this is why I like these shows that I do, because it does. Lots of people are going to listen to this. I can already tell you, it will. I'm hoping just shift their mindset to, oh my word, I hadn't thought. Actually, I say this, and I say, oh my word, to just change where you're at, because you've had proper information now.
Yeah, I would have used the term even in the fire service before I lost Beth. I didn't know, but the fact is the terms you use now are died by suicide, took their own life. But it's even coroner's courts as well. Yeah. If it's a suicide, they shouldn't use the term verdict. It should be now a conclusion. Right. But it's also commit as well. That goes back to sort of religions. You aren't buried in the churchyard because you committed suicide. But church and religion now, it's preaching from the pulpit. You should be preaching kindness and help and signposting, not hell and damnation.
And forgiveness as well. I found it. I am a very forgiving person, probably too much sometimes, but I do think forgiveness is if you can't forgive and also forgive yourself, none of us are perfect parents. Who is? It is the hardest thing in the world. But I look back at when, my lot were growing up, and I think, oh God, I don't think I played that one right. But, forgiveness, I think if you can't forgive, then it eats away at you like a cancer. I can remember saying I was brought up a Catholic. I'm not religious. I'm spiritual, but I've never lost my faith. And that was the one thing nobody could ever take away from me. But I can understand why people would walk away from it. I do understand that. I get it. That I can't. Why would someone up in the sky there allow my daughter or my son to have thought like this? I can see why people do walk away from it and then become atheists. I can see that. It's a very difficult thing, and it's a very personal thing, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Beth went to a church school, Church of England school. Sort of my wife has more faith than I did. But when we lost Beth, I had to find out what happened to her. When you die, is it just a black hole? You disappear. Or is there something beyond? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be religion, even though I believe all religions are very much the same in many of their outlooks. People can say what they want, but that's what I believe. But the fact is, I started doing lots of sort of research online, reading books about the afterlife, what happens. And it's led me to the fact that I, being spiritual, you say here, I believe there is a good chance that there is something beyond this. Can't say for sure. And I must admit, I don't feel Beth. I don't. But I'll be quite honest with you. I hold a lot of anger towards Beth. She didn't have to do what she did. I do believe she made a terrible mistake. but it's the fact that she will understand why I'm still angry.
It's part of grief.
I'm a dad. Yeah,
but it's part of grief. That's the natural part of grief, anger.
Yeah,
it's a natural part of grief. When my dad died, I remember my mum being angry because he died. He was 81 and he had a heart condition, but she was still, that anger was, why am I left? You left me, it's the massive emotions, and it's so personal. And I think resilience, you clearly, and you're a fireman, for goodness sake. I mean, goodness me, the situations you've put yourself in. I mean, were you at that time retired, or did you have to go off for a year?
I was still working. I was an aviation firefighter.
Right.
At a very busy airport. So, we did other things. Medical responses were one, within the duties I had. But no, I wasn't retired then. But the truth is that I was finished as soon as Beth took her own life. I didn't have the capacity to go back. I was probably quite dangerous. I no filters. It's very hard to explain, but basically, it was PTSD. It was PTSD.
Yes,
and it was the right diagnosis. I exist now on I don't have therapy anymore. Therapy was massively helpful. Early days, talking to different people as well. The airport chaplain was one, friends, different people supported me through this, and lots of it was talking. But I do have philosophy now, and I've had to focus on why I carry on. I'm quite open with it. My family's one. I have to carry on because my family. And the amazing thing is they don't listen to a word I say. But that's family for you. But also, I very much believe in what I do with Andy and Tim. I hate the thought of other families going through this, because sometimes it's sliding doors. Sometimes that knife edge between life and death, and that one little thing can make a difference. And this is why we want suicide prevention on the school's curriculum. It is in England now. We're working on Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. But also, I have the view as well, I am going to die one day. And I'd rather put up a fight. And in the meantime, I hate being thought of a depressing figure that people can't approach and talk to. I'll talk about football. I'll talk about dogs. I'll talk about anything, but I will talk about the serious stuff as well that I do.
I'm a bit like that. People, when I do the training in schools and stuff, I mean, with the kids and the parents, I have a black humour sometimes, and people say, oh, you're making fun of abuse. No, I'm not. I never would. But I said, I'm doing this on a daily basis. And if I didn't crack a joke sometimes, or a one-liner, or make something funny, I would be I'd be in a funny farm, because I just...
Great point. Yes.
You have to talk it through. But I do think resilience is, you clearly are resilient. I mean, I didn't think I was. I felt completely inept and dysfunctional, but there had to be something inside me, which is what the psychiatrist said to me, because I have PTSD as well. I know what it feels like, panic attacks, and God. I know what that feels like. And I think the trouble is that the trauma, that awful trauma you've gone through, he said to me, if you've been thrown out of an aircraft and you broke every bone in your body, you'd be covered in a plaster cast, you'd be put in a wheelchair, everybody would be helping you. No one can see that trauma that you were through. No one can see it. They might sense it because, Mike's not so great today, but they can't see it. And it's also, you've got to swallow your pride a bit and ask for help sometimes, haven't you? It's difficult.
Yes. I mean, you say talking about the subjects in schools as well. Some people balk when you say sort of, suicide prevention in schools. We're going to teach the kids this. It has to be a whole school approach with the parents and
absolutely.
Staff as well. But it's like any subject. If you teach it well, the kids talk about it anyway. The cat's out of the bag.
Exactly.
But if you allow them to smile, interact, even laugh, be part. We're talking about real life here. They're far more likely, and it's talking about the subject as a whole. If you take the oppression away from it, and it's taught well, and I've seen it taught from years 7 all the way to 6th form in the UK. When the kids are smiling, they're laughing, they're relaxed when they're going out. Yeah, I know why I've been taught that. It's for me, my friends, my family as well. and for when I'm an adult, I'll know a bit more. It makes absolute sense.
It's all about raising that awareness. And I mean, I think today as well, even more so because of this hideous social media impact where the youngsters, I mean, I'm thinking now of little Molly Russell, and what a great job her dad has done, like you. She would be up there somewhere watching, thinking, thanks, Dad, you're doing, what a lovely girl. Again, everything to live for. Horse riding, beautiful girl, lovely. But, this social media has so much to answer for. And I think the youngsters, they don't understand how the algorithms work, do they? How, so say somebody's new Beth. So then that person thinks, I don't know what that's all about. So I go on my little phone and I'll look up suicide. Oh golly, oh my God, that's what Beth did. And then I'll do it again because I've gone downstairs for dinner and I come back. You only got to do it 2 or 3 times. And for the next 6 weeks, you're going to be absolutely inundated with suicidation, blah, 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 how to do it, whatnot. And they're in a rabbit hole that they can't get out of. They don't know how to stop it. And I think I think there's going to be a lot with some of this stuff. I mean, you probably must have come across it where, I don't know if you've met Ian Russell, have you? I'd imagine you have.
No, I've not, but he does do some stuff with Papyrus. I'm very familiar with Molly's story. Yeah. And sadly, it's one of those cases, that there's many factors. No 2 suicides are the same. No. But the fact is, with the mobile phone, the internet, social media, it can be a 24/7 influence on our young people.
Absolutely.
And it runs absolutely unfiltered. You can say that Ofcom and are putting, things in place with the online safety bill and things. I'm afraid it's never going to reach those heights. No. So it is a case of what do we do? But if the nightmare scenario is, your young person takes the mobile phone into their bedroom at night, they've got a portal to the world. Yeah, and exactly. As you say, there's the dark web, sadly with sites that will encourage suicide, but also it's things like porn and things.
It's dreadful.
You search, it will come up and it does. Porn, but we're talking vulnerable young people.
Exactly.
We need to
people as well.
Do we ban the phone? Do we ban the phone? I mean, this is a debate here, and I sort of go up and down. In schools, do you ban it? Do you ban social media like Australia for under 16s? I'm like, ooh. But we need to control it, and we're not. We are not. As a society, we're not.
It's Wild West. It's the Wild West out there, and I'm sorry, I don't have a good word to say. Ofcom should have been, suing and taking money off these big platforms, and they're not. It's not right. Going back to your story, I mean, golly me, I mean, you're obviously very much a man. You're a man's man. It must have been. No, you are. You're firemen are, aren't they? You're the real deal.
It's firefighter. The proper term's firefighter.
Firefighters, well, yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't get me doing it. I tell you, I'm terrified of getting trapped in anything. But was there any time when you thought, I don't know, you might have been so dysfunctional it didn't cross your mind, but the man in you thinking, gosh, I've got to be a husband as well. I mean, how can I be that husband when I am broken? That must have been really difficult as well.
I've always been quite a proactive person, maybe a bit sort of dysfunctional in some ways, but I've always liked some kind of challenge. And I think what I do almost became a bit of a challenge, but a challenge that I needed for me. I did. I needed to somehow fight back in some ways. You're right. As a husband, absolutely broken. Myself and my wife, we are very much still together. We actually live in separate houses, but we are still together. And, it's good, but we go through things on different levels because you grieve in different ways.
Yes.
But you're right. I questioned all that. But part of what I was talking about before, I do forgive myself now for down days. And down days sometimes involve like I have a few too many beers, too much wine, and I do, not on a daily basis, but I know I've probably drink unhealthy amounts at the time, but the day afterwards terrible. But I forgive myself for it. But why wouldn't I be like that? Because I lost my little girl to suicide, my darling little girl.
How
You
are
know,
the other daughters? How are they?
if we look across the spectrum, myself, Andy, and Tim's children, they're doing remarkably well. But this is something they will carry with them for the rest of their life. It's a life sentence.
Oh, absolutely.
If you imagine, sort of having a little sister who was 2 years younger, who you'd grown up with, and all of a sudden she's not there. She does this. That's brutal. I'm very proud.
And it's losing a little sister in the most brutal of circumstances. So
absolutely,
it's bad enough losing through illness. It's bad enough losing through a road accident, but this is brutal. I don't think it gets much harsher. I really don't.
I think suicide has its own unique angle of grief.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm not saying it's worse than other things, but it has its own unique angle. I'm very proud of my daughters, and I don't name them by name on interviews and things like that, because they like to stay out of the spotlight, and I absolutely get that as well.
But you can also see why. I mean, I was around when Sarah Payne was murdered. Do you remember that case? And her body was found a mile from where I lived, and I met the mum, and I met the mum and I met the dad, and things like you've gone through. They split up marriages in many ways. You can't live together anymore. And she was the same. Her husband, Michael, he could not cope with her. She was like you and like I was. Threw myself into the spotlight because I didn't want another mother to have to go through dealing with 3 sexually abused children with the betrayal of your boss. Do you know what I mean? I literally, I couldn't hide away. I'm like, here I am. And I've not stopped. But Michael, her husband, he couldn't function at all. He just went within himself and he couldn't cope with her being so out there. And that caused the shift. And yet there was still love and fondness, but they couldn't live together. And that does happen. And it's perfectly understandable. These things, in a way, it's so difficult carrying everybody else's grief, isn't it, as well? You think, oh, I can't do this when they're all in the same space and we're all dark together. Do you allow yourself to ever think? So how old would she have been now?
Beth, 24. It was 6 years ago.
So do you allow it's pointless, really. What am I saying? I mean, it would be tempting. I don't know whether you do it, but do you allow yourself to think, I wonder if she'd be married now? I wonder if there'd be grandchildren.
This sounds very hard as well, but one of the ways I cope personally, and this isn't for everyone, is when she starts to invade my mind a bit, I push her away.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid I can't look back at, there are stock photos that we have around, but I could never look back at, holiday films of Mallorca, Mexico, Disney. I can't do that.
No.
It sounds very hard, but I don't allow her too much time in my head.
Because it actually is still raw, isn't it? I mean, it always will be.
It will be 6 years next month, and the time has gone in a bizarre way. It's very quick, but almost very slow, and it's very hard to describe. But do I think what she be doing? I know what she should be doing, and it's a self-preservation thing, and I push her away.
I think that is the thing. You have to protect yourself, don't you? You have to find ways of doing it. I used to find that if it all comes crowding, so I still get traumatic nightmares of what happened, and I will wake up and I don't know why, I don't know what's triggered it, but I will suddenly wake up and I am screaming and I'm like sweating and and I don't know where that's come from. Do you have those traumatic?
I don't have a good relation with sleep, and I suppose it will be the PTSD, even though I've learned to cope with that far better now. But I do have that philosophy where, okay, I know why these things happen, and I've got a choice. So sometimes days they're hard, they're long. I'm constantly busy, I'm constantly dealing in the world of suicide prevention. You know, emails will be stacking up as I'm talking to you now.
It's
and
the
we
same.
try and get
I've
back
seen
to
mine
all of
coming
them.
in. I mean,
Yeah.
I was on. So basically, I'm like papyruses, you know, or what you. I am trying to prevent the abuse, but I go out something like on a show today, and there'll be, you know, I was on a lot last week about Epstein, yeah, and that triggers other people who are abused in a different way. I've got about 5 different cases that have been failed by the authorities and the police that, you know, are nothing to do with me. It's not what my job is, but because I've learned the hard way, like you have, I know I can be an advocate for them and I can help them, but it's jolly exhausting. I mean,
you know, you don't remember. So I am retired from the fire service. I don't get paid for any of this. Occasionally, we get paid to do talks and things like that, and we put it back into the 3 dads so we can go to London and campaign and things. But no, but basically no. But I'm busier now than I was when I worked.
Yes. Me too. Sometimes I am literally working on, and that's when I can't sleep. I'm still doing emails up till 11 o'clock midnight because maybe I've been out all day doing something, and it's just ka-ching, ka-ching, they're all coming in. But like you, all the people I actually help, it would be lovely if they just went on and pressed the donate button. You know, that I've maybe spent 6 months trying to sort their lives out. You know, no one thinks about donate. I don't have a salary. If I go into a school and they ask me to go in to talk to children about something, yeah, I do for that and the travel, but it's minuscule, really. Hardly pays the electric bill. You know, it's dreadful.
It is. You know, we have our 3 dads walking book, 300 Miles of Hope.
Right.
That we are very proud of, but you know, everything went back into the 3 dads walking, so we could campaign.
So that we can find that and put an asset up. What's it called again?
It's 300 Miles of Hope. It's
300 Miles of Hope. Wow.
Yes, just one moment.
Charlotte will find it. Oh wow. Amazing. Oh, I'm gonna buy that. Well, we have to advertise that because that needs to be out there.
We're very proud of it. It's about the first walk, because we walked 4 times in all now, but you know, it'll never be a million seller, but we are very proud of it because the reviews are brilliant, but people get something out of it. Maybe you have been bereaved, and if the book can help,
exactly.
You know,
I wrote a book. Yeah, I wrote a book.
Yeah. I never saw myself as an author.
No.
We even did the audio book as well. I can't imagine anyone wanting to listen to me.
I went through knowing that my children had been sexually abused, and I wrote it. Loads of other parents have bought it who have found themselves in the same situation. Yeah. And I, like you, I never thought I could write a book, but it's amazing how it galvanizes your thoughts. I mean, where would you say?
I think that people realize they're not alone.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that they're not alone in the feelings, the grief.
Exactly.
You know, we hope there's a few laughs in there as well, bizarrely.
Well, I've actually seen you on screen, and you do joke around a lot with each other, don't you? You really take it out of each other.
Yeah. But isn't that amazing?
You have to. Humor is, I think, laughter is the best medicine. That like raises the endorphins, doesn't it? And laughter is absolutely needed. It really is. I mean, where would you say? Oh golly, or I suppose it varies, doesn't it? On a 1 to 10, where would your healing be? It goes up and down, presumably?
Oh, yeah, I don't think I could really quantify that. You know, my healing, I won't heal. You know, I won't heal. No. You know, but I would like to keep fighting, whatever fight that is. You know, but it's a life sentence.
Oh, well,
it's absolute. You know, I'm a totally different person.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully I'm not a depressing person to talk to
not
either. You know, I hate the thought of that. You know, I remember going to
one wants misery in their life, do they?
I remember on the way to Beth's funeral, my brother-in-law was driving. He was beside me. It was lockdown. The streets were lined. People came out. There were literally hundreds and hundreds of people because no one could go to the funeral apart from a few family members. The streets were lined. But I saw this guy. I know where the bench is now. It's a road that goes down to my gym. and he was sat there, and the poor soul. There was bottles, there was cans round him. He was obviously drinking himself into oblivion.
Mm.
That would have been so easy to do. But even though I was so classed as suicidal then, I stopped myself drinking for, I think, nearly about 6 months.
Thank you, that's good.
Because there was something in there that said, you drink, you may not be here. And something was there, so, there's reasons for me being here. Sometimes
100%. That's why I say I am. There's a reason why I'm still here, because I shouldn't have been, really. I mean, I nearly drove into a lorry, and I thought that'd be good. I think the thing that stopped me, I thought, ooh, I probably won't even do that right. I'll end up being a quadriplegic, and that'll be even worse. So, it's
but it's that sliding doors thing as well. There's been more than one instance. I won't go into all the details, but literally, sort of a change, a fraction of a second, keeps you here. And it is sometimes it's that knife edge. It's either way. One little thing changes, and your outcome changes, whether you're basically dead or alive, with your carrying on or not.
Just as well, we don't know what's coming around the corner, isn't it?
No,
because you wouldn't. You'd go and hide down a dark hole before it even happened. So we have coming to the end of the chat now, Mike. I could talk to you for ages and ages, because I just find it. I think I must be weird, because I actually do love talking to people that really have experienced life in the most dreadful way, because you learn, and it should make you even more empathic. And I feel very privileged that you've given me this time this morning. I really do. And I don't know, do you have on your website, do you have a donate button, or do you want people to give to Papyrus?
We do have a donate button, but it's it's on our website, www.3dadswalking.uk. But all the donations from there on the donate button go to Papyrus. 100%. So we aren't part of Papyrus. We are campaigners, but we support Papyrus. So we aren't a charity ourselves, Three Dad Walking. No. We are campaigners.
Yes, yeah. So we're going to be putting this show out once all the edits are done and the assets have been slotted in, of photographs and stuff. So then it's out there, and someone is going to be listening to this who feels like you and I felt at the start, when the tragedy and the trauma happened. What would you say to them? You're talking to someone you don't even know they're in that mind. They're watching this and they're thinking, oh my word. What would you say to them to do, not do?
Well, I'd implore them to reach out for help. I'd implore them to give themselves another chance. Depending on how old they are, I'd always say that Papyrus is designed for young people under 35s. But I will say, if someone is listening to this and maybe their young person in their lives is struggling, maybe in crisis, ring Hopeline 247. That's part of Papyrus. The number will be on the website. Ring them. It's not just for that young person who's in crisis.
It's not.
Concerned others. It's to debrief after suicide as well.
That's important.
Yeah, if you're older, reach out. Even approach your GP. There are basic things. Give yourself that second chance, as many second chances as it takes. So say the most amazing stories we hear are from those who've been in crisis, but are now living lives they want to. And, it doesn't mean every day is perfect, but sometimes it's the breakdown of that relationship. It's the end of the world. But then with 2-3 weeks down the line, you met someone else. It does happen.
It does. Last week I had Professor Jane Monckton-Smith on, and she is a global expert on domestic homicide. But she was saying more and more overtaking that is domestic suicide. So it might not be like you're looking at your young child even. It might be that you just don't know how to get out of this hideous situation, and you're considering this, and there you are. Thank you, Mike, for giving people hope. And that's what I always want to end my show on, is there is hope. resilience is important, and I think, you know, very important, and you've obviously got it, as have the other two guys. But I can't thank you enough for coming on. It's been harrowing, heartbreaking, but I'm happy to put myself through that, to talk to you and to, you know, really get to grips with what you guys are doing, and I'm actually, you know, feeling your pain, and that's not a problem. It's part of what I do, and I can't thank you enough. And thank you for all you're doing and going into the schools. And, you know, you won't know how many you have saved, but you will have done. You absolutely will have done. And that's the trouble. You never know how many people you stopped in their tracks. But absolutely the three of you have done that. And for that, I thank you. I really thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on, Marilyn, and for your kind words. No,
honestly, it's been an absolute privilege. And I normally start the show with like, oh, I'm so excited, or I'm delighted. I couldn't say that today. I had to say warm welcome, because how can I be delighted and excited? That I just think that would be completely offensive. You know, I do feel your pain. I feel it, and I wouldn't have gone into teaching if I hadn't loved kids, and I've got 4 of my own, and I cannot think of anything worse. And when I go to church on Sunday, I'm going to be praying for you. I'm going to light a candle, and I'll be praying for the little ones upstairs in heaven, because that's where they are.
It is, and there's nothing more precious than our children.
Absolutely,
you know, that they are the future. But this is why, you know, what we believe we must invest in them. You know, we need to get upstream regarding mental health.
Nelson Mandela once said, why do we drag people out the river when we could have put a fence at the top?
I read that this morning.
Oh, you're joking.
Yes, no, read that this morning. Yeah, but that's precisely our point. And that goes with like many different life skills. You know, we need to do, I think, we need to change a bit of focus in the education 100%. System.
And put children at the front of everything. And it makes me sick when you hear the courts and other people saying that, you know, the voice of the child must be heard. No, wouldn't it be lovely if they were?
Yes.
But there's the voice of 3 dads out there, and you are 3 amazing men. You really are. And thank you. And have a good day for the rest of the day. And say hi to the guys, will you? Say hi.
I will do, Marilyn. I will do.
You.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Bye for now. So, wow, I think I needed a stiff coffee or maybe a gin, but what an amazing morning. What an amazing time. I really, truly want to thank Mike and the 3 guys for what they're doing. And I think you'd have to be pretty hard not to have had your heart melted. Please go on their website. Please donate, or to Papyrus. Get these guys into the schools and invite them in, please, because every child's life matters. And I wish them all well on their journey that they're doing. Right, so my next show is going to be a lady called Joanna Howell, who was a world championship in sport. And then something happened which changed her trajectory and created trauma. And another resilient lady. What I love today is that Mike, through the most, I think, harrowing interview I've done, has left us with hope and humor. And never lose that. Never take away someone's hope. It might be the only thing they've got left. And always have humor. It's nature's medicine. So I thank you. And I am now signing off with @UnprecedentedTV, Marilyn Hawes with Heart and Soul. Please tune in. It'll be on YouTube soon. Bye-bye.